It's week one of the NFL season, which means it's time for the Face Off Sports Network Fantasy Edge that we provide you each week with our rankings and tiers at each position. I've got the running backs. Super excited to talk about the week one matchups we've got. Let's get straight to it. Looking ahead to week one, I've got to start with my first tier, which is going to be six big name running backs. Lots to talk about. These are the big players for fantasy football, and we can start none other than with Saquon Barkley at RB1, followed by Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, and Bucky Irving. Now, looking at Saquon Barkley, who gets to open up the season against Dallas on Thursday Night Football, really excited to see what happens here. I mean, Dallas was 30th against the run this past season. Saquon averaged 22.2 points per game with the fourth best run blocking team with the Philadelphia Eagles. And on top of that, Saquon forced the second most missed tackles in all of football last year at the running back position. So what we know is Saquon Barkley is going to feast. We might see some regression from him overall over the course of this season, but I'm not too worried about that. Sure, Hurts can have an uptick in passing efficiency, and maybe Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown can become a little bit more involved since they're both healthy. But at the same time, Saquon Barkley is just the player that he is. He's going to be fantastic for fantasy football, and I think he's going to be great for week one. Even on opening night, I look to him to be the RB1 for me. Now, the running back two for me was Bijan Robinson, again, averaging 20.1 points per game. It's notable injuries for him on the offensive line, including both tackles who are going to be out for this game. One loss for likely the year. But the Falcons team themselves was the best run blocking team in all of football in 2024, and they have the second best rushing grade in football. So this team can run the ball efficiently and run the ball well. Yes, they lost the tackles, but what we also know is Bijan is a fantastic playmaker. He forced the fourth most missed tackles at the running back position in 2024. So I'm not going to be too concerned about what can happen there. He's a player that you should trust, throw in your lineup, and I can't wait to see how he finishes because he's my RB2 on the week, taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for week one. Now, my RB3 and Jahmyr Gibbs averaged 21.3 points per game. Now, this team in Detroit might look a little bit different since Ben Johnson's out of town, but what we know is they're very, very efficient when it comes to running the ball. They have the fifth best PFF rushing grade this past season and the second best run blocking grade. So what we know is the Lions are proficient when they do get to run the ball. The double hammer between Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery is fantastic. I don't care who starts the game. Either one of them, it doesn't matter. All Jahmyr needs is 15 to 20 opportunities to absolutely win you a week, and I think he's going to do just that, taking on the Green Bay Packers. Not the best matchup in the world, but they do lose Kenny Clark. They add Micah Parsons. Does that make too much of a difference? I don't know, but Kenny Clark is a serviceable defensive tackle, and that's worth noting, so I do think it's going to matter a little bit, but I expect Jahmyr Gibbs to be the player that we all know and love, and he's going to be fantastic for fantasy. Now, my RB4 here, Christian McCaffrey, is a more difficult situation just given the injuries that we all know. The team itself in San Francisco taking on the Seattle Seahawks. I like the matchup. What we know is this San Francisco team is going to have to lean on the run game, and Shanahan is more than comfortable to do that. They were the third best run blocking team in all of football in 2024. Christian McCaffrey's finally healthy. This past season, he only averaged 12 points per game, but what we know is when he is healthy and he has the opportunity, he can average an insane amount of fantasy points. So I expect that to take place. Now, looking at RB5 for me and Derrick Henry, taking on the Buffalo Bills, not the best matchup, not the worst matchup, but it's worth noting, Derrick Henry, it doesn't matter. Averaged 19.8 points per game this past season. The Ravens were the number one rushing grade defense this past season. So it's really nice to see that that's probably going to continue. They were the most efficient run team this past year. He forced the most missed tackles in all of football, and I expect Derrick Henry to do Derrick Henry things. Yes, Lamar is going to have his opportunity to kind of shark some things maybe at the goal line or just in general since they do use him so heavily in the run game. But Derrick Henry is going to feast. He's going to continue to be that guy. He's healthy. This line is fine. I really like the Ravens going into this season. I think they're a pretty good Super Bowl contender. But, taking on the Bills, that's a tough week one matchup, but I think they're going to have to lean on the run and get Lamar back into that season form where last year he threw 41 passing touchdowns. That's an insane number, but Derrick Henry is the king and we'll continue to ride with him. And my RB6 to close out my tier in Bucky Irving, taking on the Atlanta Falcons. I really love what Bucky can do. I mean, he forced the 10th most missed tackles in all of football at the running back position. And it's worth noting he was splitting time with Rachaad White, who has been injured. He averaged 14.4 points per game. We've seen him make plays in the preseason. He's back to his full form. He is absolutely electric with the ball in his hands, and I love the fact that he should have a full workload. The Bucs were also the 8th best Pro Football Focus rushing grade team this past year. I think Bucky Irving steps into that same spot he was last year. Doesn't matter. He's a lot like Jahmyr Gibbs. He only needs 15 opportunities really to kind of explode and take over your lineup for you. So I love what he has this upcoming season, and I love week 1 for him. He is a must start for me, a must play, especially in things like DFS. But let's jump into my tier 2 here. Moving on to the next group of guys, I've got Jonathan Taylor kicking off this group at running back 7, followed by Chase Brown, Devon Achane, Josh Jacobs, Ashton Jeanty, and Kyren Williams. Now, this tier gets a little bit more murkier, but at the same time, there's stability here. We've got Jonathan Taylor, who takes on the Miami Dolphins at 1 o'clock on Sunday. Really excited to see him with this new look Colts. He averaged 17.5 points per game this past season. I do think that Daniel Jones being the starting quarterback, while it might be marginal, is better for Jonathan Taylor. I think it's going to let him have a better passing attack, which can take some pressure off this run game and allow them to stay on the field. Jonathan Taylor is going to be the guy being backed up by DJ Giddens. I think he's going to have to work into that role. I'm not worried about him being sharked by carries or anything like that. And you don't have to worry about Anthony Richardson taking in some goal line sneak or anything like that. I really, really like this offensive line too. The 5th best run block grade in all of football in 2024. Jonathan Taylor is a great play for me. I was close to putting him in that tier 1, but he's going to kick off tier 2 for me. And looking at Chase Brown, who gets to take on the Cleveland Browns, the matchup just is what it is. Chase Brown is going to be the guy. I do think Taj Brooks will get worked in the further we get into the season. But week 1, it's going to be Chase Brown. You don't have to worry about anyone else. He's going to get plenty of opportunities. He averaged 15.9 points per game this past year, and he's serviceable. He's going to be involved in the passing game. He's going to get his opportunities in the run game. I really like the Bengals here against Cleveland. Hopefully they can start off at 1-0 and not do what they did last year and have those slow starts. We know Joe Burrow is trying to get back into form. We saw that in the preseason where he was refusing to come out of the game. But I do think that Chase Brown is going to be a good player for week 1 of this NFL season for fantasy. And looking at my running back 9, Devon Achane, who takes on the Colts. It's a scary one. I mean, he injured himself in the preseason training camp time. The Colts were 3rd against the run in 2024, so that is notable. But Devon Achane did average 17.6 points per game this past year. Maybe Ollie Gordon gets to spell him a little bit. Jalen Wright might get a few opportunities, but it's worth noting if he's going to be on the field, he's going to be involved. That's why I have him in my tier 2 here. The injury just kind of gives me a little bit of hesitancy if he's going to get a full workload and kind of really be able to shoulder the load. I mean, he's a smaller guy taking on a good rush defense. So Devon Achane is going to be a scarier start for a lot of people, and I can respect that. And looking at my RB10, it's Josh Jacobs. And I'm not sure if there's anyone that slept on more than Josh Jacobs. I mean, he averaged 17.2 points per game this past year. He was 3rd in missed tackles forced. He has an awesome offensive line. They were the 4th most efficient rushing game in 2024, and that's large part because of him. There really wasn't anybody else that was doing the work besides Josh Jacobs, and I think he steps into a great matchup. He's taking on Detroit. Yes, that's a great team, but we saw that defense kind of be all over the place last year, and I think that this new look Packers might kind of have something there. We'll have to see. I think Jordan Love, maybe he's able to have that connection with Matthew Golden, like I think. And then Josh Jacobs can kind of be the guy to clean it up because he was so efficient last year and so explosive. He just dominated all over the field. I really like Josh Jacobs here in week 1. And I think he's going to be a fantastic play for the rest of the season. Now, my RB11 is Ashton Jeanty. Now, this is the one that's a question mark. It's the first rookie to pop up on the board. What we do know is he's going to be the workhorse for this team. Now, how much opportunity does that translate to? I don't know. I do think that we should expect a little bit of a pushback for Ashton Jeanty. I don't think he's going to quite perform to the value that he's currently being drafted at, which is typically around RB5 or RB6 in drafts. I kind of have him projected as an RB10 to 11, maybe 12 finish at the end of the season. At the same time, taking on the New England Patriots in week 1, maybe this defense is a little bit more stout with Mike Vrabel in town. They've made some additions there. I do think that he's going to be fine for week one, but I don't think that we can necessarily project that he's going to slot in to be some type of RB1 candidate. Now, it's certainly in the realm of possibility, but in my opinion, I don't think that's the case. The Vegas Raiders still have a ton to prove, but Ashton Jeanty is probably going to be a big factor in that offense. I do think Brock Bowers will continue to be the number one fantasy player here, but at the same time, Ashton Jeanty is going to be a fine player going forward. Great future ahead of him, especially in Dynasty, so if you got him there, congrats to you. Now, my RB12 is Kyren Williams, another player that is kind of hot and cold for a lot of people, averaging 17 points per game this past year. He takes on the Houston Texans in the 425 window. He forced the 8th most missed tackles in 2024, which is kind of surprising for a guy who gets a lot of knocks from people like me saying he can't perform in open space and make those big explosive plays. He is forcing missed tackles, which you want to see. The Rams are a super efficient offense. They had the sixth best run blocking offensive line this past year. I don't think that's going to change. Kyren Williams is going to continue to feast. We might see Jarquez Hunter work into that. Maybe Blake Corum gets a few opportunities, but it doesn't really matter because Kyren Williams is going to be the guy that they're going to use at the goal line and utilize to get down the field because he's simply the best player there. And he's got that trust from Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, and that's not going to change. Now let's look at tier 3 here. We're going to start with none other than James Conner, followed by Chuba Hubbard, Alvin Kamara, Breece Hall, James Cook, and Kenneth Walker. Now, this tier, again, is kind of where it's going to get murky for some people. James Conner being the first one at RB13 for me this week, taking on the New Orleans Saints in the 1 o'clock window. I absolutely love this matchup. And if I had to predict someone to shoot up much higher on these boards and finish in the top 10, it would be James Conner. And the reason why is the New Orleans Saints were the 3rd worst team against the run in 2024. And Conner was super steady where he averaged 12.9 points per game. In addition to that, Conner forced the 6th most missed tackles at the running back position. What we know about the Saints is it's kind of all over the place. Spencer Rattler is going to be starting. Maybe that offense doesn't produce that much. But on the flip side, the Cardinals, they have a lot to prove, and I think a lot of that is going to run through James Conner. Kyler Murray and his passing efficiency still hasn't necessarily added up to being that great, but at the same time, James Conner has been so steady that I think he can continue to take pressure off of that while capitalizing on this bad New Orleans defense. So I really like James Conner this week. He's my dark horse play to finish in the top 10. Love his opportunity. Looking at RB14 for me, it's Chuba Hubbard, another running back who's kind of being slept on by a lot of people, taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars this Sunday. He averaged 16.1 points per game. And this Carolina offensive line, really, really good and really, really underrated. It's one of the most expensive offensive lines in all of football. And they were the 7th best run blocking team in all of football in 2024. Chuba Hubbard, he is going to be the guy. They add Rico Dowdle. I think he'll kind of get some opportunities. He'll spell Chuba a little bit. But for the most part, Chuba's going to be the guy, and he's going to take off a lot of pressure for Bryce Young. And I do think this offense is going to take steps forward, which is only going to benefit Chuba because they get to stay on the field a little bit longer. Looking at my RB15 in Alvin Kamara, again, taking on the Arizona Cardinals, he averaged 19 points per game in 2024. He is the New Orleans Saints offense. Yes, they have Chris Olave, but the quarterback play there is suspect. Spencer Rattler starting. Maybe Tyler Shuck gets in there if it gets too bad. But what we know is the Saints offense are just inconsistent, whereas Alvin Kamara is consistent. He's going to be involved in everything. He is the rushing game. He will get plenty of targets. We've seen that each year. I don't expect that to change at all. So I really, really like Alvin Kamara to continue to be that steady play for you, just given the fact that he's on the New Orleans Saints and that team is not going to be good. You have to temper expectations a little bit, and that's why he's in my tier 3 here. And looking at my next player, it's going to be Breece Hall, who takes on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I love Breece Hall. He's been one of my favorite buys in this offseason just because the fact a lot of people have been fading him. Yes, he has a lot to prove to this new regime, and maybe he does get a little bit of a committee and he splits the workload, but I think he's the best running back in this room. He averaged 15.1 points per game this past season, and he's now paired with Justin Fields. Now, I am not a believer in Justin Fields' passing ability, but what I am a believer in is Justin Fields' check down rate, and it's very, very high. It's one of the highest in the leagues, and Breece Hall has been one of those players that absolutely feasts in the target game, having a year of over 90 targets and another season of over 70 targets. Breece Hall is going to be super involved in this passing attack. He's going to get a ton of checkdowns from Justin Fields this season. I like his play this week against the Steelers. I think he's going to be a PPR guy that can get you a bunch of points and stay around that 15.1 point per game average that he had in 2024. Now, looking at my next running back at RB17, it's James Cook, who takes on the Baltimore Ravens. It's a tough matchup. He was a TD-dependent player last year, scored a bunch of touchdowns, but at the same time, he averaged 16.7 points per game, and that's worth noting because that was a really, really good year for him. He just signed that new contract. The Bills are going to continue to run the ball and probably be pretty proficient at it. They're a good offense. I trust in Josh Allen. I trust in this offense. I think that James Cook is going to be a fine play. Now, my RB18, Kenneth Walker. This is a tougher one. I mean, he's been injured. He's had several injuries over the course of his career thus far. And I've kind of been one of those players that's saying, hey, we should continue to trust him and draft him. The staff has said, oh, he's fine. What do we know? He's still popping up on those injury reports. It's a chance that this turns into a little bit of a committee, and that's why I have him at RB18. But when we step back and look at the stats when he's healthy, it's tough. It's really, really tough. I mean, he averaged 16.5 points per game in 2024 when he played, which was 12th overall in points per game in 2024. When he's healthy, he's fantastic. The Seahawks had the 6th best rushing grade in Pro Football Focus in 2024. And a large part of that is because of when Kenneth Walker was there, he was really, really good. Zach Charbonnet was fine as a replacement, and he is a great RB2 for this team, but Kenneth Walker is the RB1, and I think it's going to remain that way. He forced the 9th most missed tackles out of all running backs while still missing all that time. And I think that's worth noting because when he gets the opportunity and he has this offensive line perform, he's going to produce for fantasy. I do think that there's a chance it's a committee. He takes on San Francisco, which has completely revamped that defensive line. So maybe it's a little bit of a tougher matchup. But this is probably one of those players that we could see shoot up into tier 2, maybe into tier 1s in certain weeks, just given the fact of his ability to perform when he is on the field. And let's look at tier 4 to round out my top 24. And it starts with Aaron Jones, Amarian Hampton, Tony Pollard, David Montgomery, the rookie Travion Henderson, and Isaiah Pacheco. Now, when we look at Aaron Jones, who's my RB19, he takes on the Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football. He averaged 14.2 points per game in 2024. He's might be in a little bit of a committee, but I do think he's going to be the head of the committee. He's going to be involved in the passing game. We know that. He's really, really steady. He's a lot like James Conner. He's going to get his opportunities. He's going to feast. I think he's another one of those safe RB2 plays, so I have him here slotted at RB19, and I think he's going to be just fine going forward. Now, the rookie Amarian Hampton here at RB20 for me, it's another one of those riskier plays. I have him as 20th overall. There's a chance that Najee, since he's coming back, he might get a little bit involved, but he missed a lot of the offseason and a lot of the preseason, so I do think that Hampton will lead off. He'll probably get more opportunities and more snap share than Najee Harris, and that could change going forward. I think that they could probably split that workload, but at the same time, they're taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. What we know there is they're going to have to put up points. They're going to have to score, and I think Amarian Hampton is a guy who can be involved in the pass game and carry a workload, so I'm really excited to see what the rookie can do going forward, and we get a little bit more data on him. Now, my next running back was 21. It's Tony Pollard taking on the Denver Broncos, a tough matchup. This defense is as stout as it can be, probably the best or one of the best defenses overall in all of football. Spears is out, so the opportunity and the workload is there for him. He averaged 12.5 points per game this past season. I think with Spears being gone, he's just going to get the volume. I think Cam Ward is going to be better than a lot of people expect. It's a really tough matchup in week 1, so it's unfortunate for them. But Pollard is going to be the guy who's probably going to get 5 or 6 targets maybe, and on top of that, probably have somewhere around 15 carries. So just the volume alone, I like the play of Tony Pollard in week 1, and I think the first 4 weeks he's going to be a guy who is consistent here in the tier 3, tier 4 area. Now, my next guy, David Montgomery at RB22, kind of goes back to a lot of the same reasons as Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, he averaged 15.8 points per game this past season, but he has that offensive line just like Jahmyr. So he's not the one, but he's going to get plenty of opportunities because this team likes to lean on him. He's another goal line guy. Yes, he's a year older. Taking on the Packers, not the best matchup, but they do lose Kenny Clark. So I think that's something notable for a guy like him, especially who's going to be used and utilized heavily between the 20s. Now, looking at my next running back, 23, Travion Henderson, the rookie that I'm so excited for. We don't really have any data for him to go off of. We can talk about his college stats, but it's not that really relevant here. It's a great matchup taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. They have so much to prove. That defense was not that great last year. At the same time, Travion Henderson looks to be the guy. He was explosive all preseason. He is significantly better than Ramondre Stevenson. I think Stevenson's still going to have a role. He's still going to get some opportunity and some work. But at the same time, Travion has proven that he's the guy that can push this offense to the next level. I think Drake May takes a step forward. They invested in this offensive line with Will Campbell coming in to play tackle. They add Morgan Moses. Lots of pieces are coming into play for this run game to be better. The longer they're on the field, the more opportunities that Travion's going to get. And with his explosive playmaking, his first touch was a kickoff return against Washington, week 1 of the preseason. Love the opportunity for him. I think he's going to be fantastic going forward in the future. And he's here in tier 4. Hopefully he can sneak up higher in the coming weeks. And to round out my top 24, I have Isaiah Pacheco. And this is one of those plays that I think is going to mainly be just what the Chiefs actually need. Rice is out. The suspension is taking place. So maybe that means they lean a little bit more on the run game, taking on the Chargers in week 1 on Friday night. He wasn't healthy last year, and that is a large part of why he was unable to perform to the level that we might have expected. Maybe pushed him back in some rankings a little bit. But this run blocking, they were the 8th best overall in 2024. And I don't think that's going to change too much. There are some question marks about the tackle play in Kansas City, but going forward, I'm really excited for Isaiah Pacheco. I think he can have the opportunity this year to be the guy. He's competing with older Kareem Hunt, and we can talk about the other running backs on that roster, but I don't think it's worth the time. Isaiah Pacheco is the best play for this year and the best play going forward. And I think he's going to be a guy that's going to have the opportunity to prove it this year, maybe to get some further opportunity. But if I'm a dynasty manager, I'm just utilizing this 1 year of Pacheco and possibly looking for a way out going forward. But that's going to round up my top 24. So be sure to let me know who you think is in your top 24. Who did I miss? If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know and I'll come back and answer them in the chat. If you have a start sit question, we can absolutely answer those. Be sure to tune in, subscribe to the Face Off Sports Network. We have all sorts of content that we're doing. We'll be live throughout the week answering your questions, and we'll be sure to see you in the comments.